Man, what's popping? Hope everybody's good. I hope everybody's in the land of the living and all that righteous talk, you know. But the cooketh of the booketh. It's talking about white heaven, right? And I just want to just be clear, first and foremost, this predates any kind of cooking of the books that people know about right now. We're talking about when the crown was still in charge of everything over here, right? We're talking about pre-Boston Tea Party, and we're talking like individuals who probably did some of the first audits. I would assume it was clandestine, and in those efforts, they may have uncovered some unrighteous and just dishonest dealings with their who would be considered American cousins in the future. And what happened was once they realized that these guys was doing whatever they was doing, that's when there was real issues. You know, there weren't issues before that fact. The issues come when, you're telling me, okay, so I give you a prime example. If you're the head clerk who's counting all the cotton every year that you're supposed to send out to all these different places that are supposed to be under the control of the realm, and you know I don't know what kind of metric tons they would have been, but they would have been in the metric tons at all times, right? And all of a sudden, they're just coming up extra light. Or let's say, you're getting used to a certain range of tobacco. And all of a sudden, everything start coming up extra light. It's not just people complaining about how much money they were being taxed by the crown. It's the crown doing their own investigations and being like, hey, what's going on with all the stuff that you guys are supposed to be sending out? And so you got a situation on your hands where they've cooked the books for so long that nobody realizes that it's to a detriment. You know what I'm saying? You can't this whole nation is based on cookbooks. Nobody can tell me nothing different. I've had many conversations with many different people, and at the end of it, we all come to the same conclusion. Like, yeah, they sure enough dirtied up the books. They had to, because it's the only way we could have got this far with the kind of debt and the kind of treachery that's taking place, and nobody been held to account. You know what I mean? And this is why you're not supposed to write nothing down. And we're not going to get uber biblical or nothing like that. But if you're not writing anything down, you can't confirm your own goodwill. What it is what it is, and what it's not is what it's not. So if it's not there, I don't care what the paperwork says. We didn't get it, and you can tell us that you shipped it out all you wanted to. But the Boston Tea Party is the greatest example of the cooking of the books, because it's one of the real times where we know for sure that the crown had to have been doing an audit on America and you know trying to see what was going on, whatever. I don't know if these dudes wanted to get caught out in the open, but it ended up being like that. As an adult grown up man who has seen people tell me to my face like, yeah, sometimes business owners will go to a store and buy something, and they'll buy an abundance of it and write it off as a business expense because they'll use a certain amount of the material in their project, and then they'll say the rest is waste when it's not really waste. Does that make sense? That it's no different than when they go out on those lunches and they wine and dine their friends or some date or whatever or themselves, and then all of a sudden, it's a business write-off. So it's no different than this kind of activity, only this one is like a more aggressive way of saying, like, we don't want to give you what your piece is worth or whatever you think the piece you're supposed to get. We don't want to give that to you. And so now you got a situation where you have to cook the books. They had to throw the tea. Okay, so there were no video recordings back then. So all the pictures, the little picture that you seen or whatever, is if that's a real life depiction, who knows? I'm thinking that this is what they really imagined. Word. Unless there was like a no shit photographer, I forget what they call it. I don't think it's a stenographer, but it's the person that makes like the glyphs, right? It might be the stenographer in the court, you know what I'm saying? Whoever it is that writes the shit down, and like makes the pictures, right? Like that person, you know. Um, but still, unless there's one of them like president available while the Boston Tea Party happens, we can say it's hearsay, but the Americans who went on later on, that was like one of their claims of like rebellious nature to the crown and to the realm. So what happened was these dudes literally cooked the books in front of everybody. What tea? Right. That's how you cook the books. That's how you do it. As opposed to making it hot, you throw the shit in the water. Whatever. What are you guys talking about? And if don't nobody see it, the books are really cooked. It's already insured. See, these days it's different. Shit is insured and all that. Man, you can cook the books all you like. And can't nobody stop you. And can't nobody tell me that's not what's going on. If people aren't cooking the books, how is there fraud left and right? There's all different kinds of fraud. Insurance fraud, uh um uh faking like injuries, you know what I'm saying? All that. So when a person tries to say that they didn't cook the books and that this shit ain't built on a whole slate of a cookbook, they're lying. The Listen, it was so bad that dudes were jumping out of buildings at one point. They had cooked it so bad. Right on? Right. I mean, I know I'm not tripping. I know I'm not the only person that's heard of the roaring 20s. I can't be. So because of that, that has to mean that when they cooked it all up, they cooked it good. They burnt it on both sides. This shit is not salvageable. Right. And this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with a group of individuals who understand that since the beginning, they have been tearing up the inventory and doing it wrong. Like the logistics from day one, the logistics have been messed up. And I'm starting to see certain activities as things that help the books get cooked, because if, let's say, for example, a person works at a business, right? And the boss is like, no matter what, every day cook this much meat. No matter what, every day cook this much dish. I don't give a fuck how busy or slow we are. You're cooking this. So every day you got hella shit to waste. And it's like, we ain't giving nothing to the poor, none of that. But this dude is cooking the books on purpose. So that way, he can apply for these loans or he can launder some money for whoever is really putting on for that. You see what I'm saying? And so when you have all these different dynamics, like like uh people will also dirt the books up to make it look like they didn't make any money. Right on? Boom. So I'll give you a prime example, and I'm not shitting on no major hotels, but if I was a hotel and a motel and all that, right? Every weekend, I would throw out and dispose of tens of thousands of dollars worth of laundry and linen. Every weekend I would do this, right? Then I would go to the same place that is being refurbished at and buy it back sometime later on for a reduced price. I'm gonna cook the books on that end, then I'm gonna cook it on the other end, and then when I bring it back, right, that means that I'm gonna keep doing this, and then I'm gonna write it off at the end of the year, right? And I'm gonna do that a million times over with everything I got going on in the hotel. That's how they do it. It's not hard to do. You just can't overdo it. We got a real situation on our hands where people don't realize because of slavery, they cook the books all the way. Like slavery made it to where They can say, hey, look, how much does this cost? I don't know. How much does it cost? They give this dude a deal that he wouldn't normally get for a product that he shouldn't even be able to get his hands on. But because he's somebody's people, you know, long lost relative related or whatever, he's able to get the hookup. They write it off, however. Back of the day, it was a invoice or bill of sale, as me and brother Andre were talking about the other day. And I just felt like it was just something that I needed to really, cover over because they cooketh the booketh since the first time that they set foot on this place till now. The very first drop of blood that was shed towards bringing black people here was when they started cooking the books. Right. The crown is asking dudes, hey, is everything all right over there? Everything's fine. Great relation with the natives, while them and the natives are trying to kill one another. By the time they get their own emissaries, or they're like, well, we're still trying to figure out the flora and the fauna. We don't want to send people there for them to get sick or to get ravaged by some wild beast. All kinds of, you know what I'm saying, right? There's other ways to cook the books. Like I said, there's other things you can do that help the books get cooked. By the time somebody finds out what's really going on, it's too late to change it. Got to keep going forward. So how do we cook the books now? Okay, we'll tell lies about these people as history goes on, right? We'll make up salacious, libel, trite, hateful, just all around fucked up, and we'll put it out there. And then what we'll do is we'll make it to where, you know, we're the ones in control of what everybody sees and hears. So even when we've cooked the books and everybody's like, man, well, they're the only ones in control, it won't matter, right? Because the books are already cooked. Don't matter. How can you prove it? They're going to be like, well, we didn't do it. Somebody else did it. Blessed be the Most High God, man. Because people don't want to hear this. They don't even want to touch this kind of subject. The whole earth is running on cookbooks. Right. This is why you have people who are like, I'm a self-made whatever. That's because they're like, I'm not cooking the books like the rest of them. Right. I might have a couple write-offs that I use, but I'm paying my fair share. This is why you have so many people who were, pissed off. And then you have other ones who talk loud, but really they talking loud, but they ain't saying nothing. Because they ain't, listen, I was watching a little YouTube short the other day, and I'm not putting 50 out there or any of the other guys that I've been listening to, right? But 50 said something real interesting, right? About why he moved to Texas. And 50 was like, he was watching the whole COVID thing. And he said that they said that they was gonna start taxing dudes like 58%. And so he was like, shit, I'm about to become my fucking Houston fan. You know what I'm saying? I'm moving to Houston. Think about that. He understands that in order for me to cook the books, and I'm not saying 50's cooking them like a trillionaire or a billionaire would, but I'm saying in order for him to cook the books, he's got to move his permanent resident to one space so that way the income that he gets is not taxed in that state. Then he can use he can use all that untaxed revenue to do what he's going to do elsewhere. It's what they all do. Right on. You put some money in a Swiss account. You got some money in some euros. You got some money over there in some Saudi oil. Right on. So if whatever push comes to shove, I'll bring all my resources. I'll liquidate and then I'll go headlong into the one that's really not going to fail me. Regular people don't have that kind of resource and that kind of provender to even think about this kind of thing. But when I say they cooked the book since the beginning, they've been cooking them. And like I said, okay, imagine this. You're John Smith and I'm a regular native, right? You kill me, but I'm the chief. Now all my people are fighting against you. Now, every single time you write letters to the crown, you're telling them, hey, everything is good. You know, the land is bountiful, is it gives great produce, blase, blase, blase. Like I said, the relation with the indigenous people, the native people, is great. That's what y'all saying after you and killed me. Right. Right there is cookbooks. If I lie about some shit, I'm cooking it. That's what cooking the books are. So if you're lying about history, they didn't cook history too. They didn't did the same thing. When I say they cook it, the book it, I'm not just talking about the money, y'all. I'm talking about the whole thing. Right. Because in their history, they're telling you the one way to see it is like this. They came here unexpectedly. First, Spanish conquistadors. Then, because the Spanish and the English were at war, rumors got out that Spain had discovered this new land. People who were in England, the crown was like, look, round up all these destitute bastards and people who don't want to listen and want to go do their own thing and send them over there to where the Spanish can win. People really believe that story. I mean, people believe it. So let's roll with that. They came here, established outposts on the eastern seaboard, all the way from the top rim to the bottom. These are what you call the 13 original colonies. While doing so, attempting to be amicable towards the native indigenous people, they would be attacked relentlessly and their women ravaged and raped by the native men of the land, therefore causing discourse and embitterment, right? Indignation between either party. One feeling that their land being encroached on, and the other feeling as if their pursuit of life being encroached upon. Wow, this is deep now. While the one party, who is indigenous and native to the land, would give in and capitulate to some of the ways that were brought to them by the foreigners, there was a hefty number of them who would be murdered throughout the years by the same individuals claiming their pursuit of life, property and whatnot. These same individuals tell you that story. Now, follow what I'm saying. If I'm saying they cook it the booketh, and they told you that they did that, but I'm saying, man, they came over here killing motherfuckers right off rip, raping the native women right off rip. And anything that you see in a movie about a native dude raping a white chick is really just those individuals returning the favor. White dudes were scalping natives first. Right. But if you let them tell it, they'll tell you that the natives did that shit to them first. That's not true. White dudes did that shit to the natives first. Natives just returned the favor. Oh, y'all want to get sick with it, huh? Got you. I fucking got you. Right. Don't nobody want to hear that. Cooketh or the booketh. They'll lie about anything and tell you anything. Yeah, Queen. All of our cotton dried up this year and got all fucked up while they're laughing about it while they put this shit on the inventory. Lost so many metric tons, sending this much. 88% less than our regular shipment. I'm talking about everything. Right. And then, like I was telling Andre the other day, clandestine operations have been going on for so long, it wouldn't have been unthinkable, but that it would not have been unthinkable that the crown sent somebody here, an undercover operative, if you will, right, for the modern day jargon and lingo, who came here with so much resource and provender, bought these things, procured the receipts and the invoices, and sent them back. These same things would not be found on the audits later on with the crown. Now, they're not going to tell you this kind of shit. I am. Right on. They cooked the books way back then, y'all. This is what caused all this shit to happen in the first place. Right. And then you get to the Boston Tea Party. Right. How can you prove anything if I just get rid of all this shit? Where do you think the dudes get the whole flushing the down the fucking toilet from? Right there. How can you prove it? But it was so much tea, it was so much product, it had to been seen. Right. But that's why they dressed up as natives, remember? Right. To do that shit. They made it seem like the Native Americans was in on that shit and was mad about it and all this other stuff. Fuck all that. That's bullshit. Everybody knows that's bullshit. Come on now. They were cooking the books right in front of everybody. And most people they can't even fathom that. They're like, whoa, Meech, you better stop talking like that. This is what's going on right now. Every job everybody works at, somebody's cooking the book. Middle management, their whole job is to cook books all day. How can we get a write-off? How can we get a benefit? How can we do something that'll say we spent this much money, even though we didn't even spend it? We're gonna say we spent it. They'll have to prove that we didn't do that. My sister has a has a charity or whatever. We'll run it through her charity. You know what I'm saying? I'll back in a few dollars to her. She'll throw a little dummy event, right? She'll go and procure so many receipts for that, and we'll say we charge her thus, and thus. You know, an exponential amount of money. They're gonna have to prove all these little things, right on. This is how they do it. They've been cooking this shit for so long that they don't know how to stop. They're like, look, man, what do we do? They're like, what do we do? They're like, how do we stop cooking the books? And there's guys in the room like, we can't. Just keep going. That's where we're at. This is why, all those dudes over there in Russia who were supposed to have been aligned with Putin, when they got all the money froze because they were supposed to have the money broken down way better, because they were supposed to have been cooking the books better, Putin was like, man, get these motherfuckers out of here. Word. Weak ass motherfuckers. Man, what the fuck is going on here? Fucking up the chicken. Right. Can't have that. And I'm just saying from a point of view of that's not how I rock. I'm just telling you, if I was running a business like that, this is how I'm moving. So there's no way you're telling me that these individuals who were there are any less like that. Right. You fucked up my ability to access a whole bunch of my money. All of your oligarchs or whatever was supposed to have did this, did this, did this. Did not do that. Put me in a position, in a situation where I can't even get to my money. Get them out of here. Right. They cooked the books. The shit went wrong. They paid the price the ultimate way. This is what for real happens. Bernie Madoff. Let's talk about it, y'all. Word. If y'all think that the Boston Tea Party is not enough proof, what about when Bernie Madoff hit for like 4 billion? And y'all people really think that Bernie Madoff pulled that off all by itself? People forget. Bernie was about to testify. His son committed suicide, supposedly. Bernie was like, I don't want to testify anymore. Died in prison, I want to say. Right. Y'all really believe that this dude was able to cook the books of $4 billion all by himself? Or was that a team of individuals and people way above him telling him, like, don't worry, we got you covered? Right. That shit is real. The shit really hit home for him. And people don't even understand that. Like, there are no games being played because, like I said, they're cooking them because they were cooked from the very beginning. And they don't want to come out and tell people, hey, look, this is what we're doing. Because if they really came out and told people, like, yo, poverty has to exist. We have to be able to exploit people for menial labor at all times. It has to exist. We have to be able to get somebody to come and work for 30 bucks all day. Right. Otherwise, how are we going to get ours? The books are already cooked. We're saying we got money that we don't have. Somebody has to do this work for the dirt, and it ain't going to be me. Right. But I'm saying that this is how much we already got anyway. So what sense does it make? Once again, y'all, they want you to believe that people came here, were able to get slave labor, pay whatever they were given the crown was nothing. It doesn't matter. You're not, listen to this. It's basic sense. You don't have the ability to withhold rain or wind. As bad as they try, as hard as they try, they really don't have that ability. Because when they mess with stuff too much, things go awry. But my point is this: is that way back in the day when slaves were having babies, like, right, they were cooking the books back then. The dude is like saying, like, yeah, I got 2 slaves, right? But really, he's got 18 slaves, 20 slaves. Guys like, yeah, I got 100 slaves, but really, he's got closer to 1,000. Like, they're cooking the books. Yeah, I purchased this many slaves. Right on. I'm telling y'all, I sold all these slaves to all these people. I got all these invoices. This is why you have to be able to check the invoice to whoever they're saying, whoever this person is, to their invoices. Right. These are supposed to be legit businessmen. These are not just running the mill Joes. Your running the mill Joes were overseers on the plantation. They were picking cotton right next to niggas and hating their lives. I'm trying to break it down to you. Okay. Anybody that owned the plantation, give a fuck if they said they had 1 slave. They were a business person. They were a small business. You could even say a very small business, but nonetheless, they were a business person. You have to look at every slave owner like that. Otherwise, you'll miss the emphasis of everybody cooking the books. Get what I'm saying? I'm a slave owner. Fuck it, I'm a black slaver. We're going to go there. I came here with 30 slaves off rip. My slaves all have babies. Luckily for me, I lucked up. They had a bunch of girls. So now I can get this other cast of young men married at some point, or I'm just going to sell their mothers off. I'm going to figure it out. Oh, this is deep now. Or I'm going to keep them and I'm going to farm them up. And I'll team them up with some of these other slaves from other plantations. And I get babies like that. However, I'm going to do. But I'm going to increase my number of slaves. And I'm going to always underreport how many slaves I have. And I'm always slaves. I know. Say no, no. I'm gonna say, oh no, these are slaves from so and so's plantation, and so is gonna say the same thing. Like, no, those are slaves from so and so's plantation. Word, right on. Whenever we get audited, that's how that. But who's gonna come from way across the sea to audit you like that all the time? Right. So when they did these things, and like I said, when somebody looked at the books and was like, "Hey man, everything is light in the ass. This shipment." The cotton is down. Indigo is down. Tobacco's down. Maize is down. Right on? All this shit is down. Everything is fucked up. What's going on over there? Right? And they're like, I don't know. Hey, man, we got to send some people to see what's going on. All right. We need everybody's financial records. So they're collecting all the financial records. They're not going to tell y'all about this kind of shit. Like, these are the small things that led up to these major events. Right. The cooking of the books. And they know it. White heaven knows they cook the books and still cook them to this day. This is why I don't like when I hear brothers say, oh man, get your money up. Because it's like, look, dude, check this out. There's only so much of it out there, right on? And if you're not spending all the money that you got saved and you've got millions saved, I've only got thousands saved, but you got millions saved. Homie, come on. Think about that. Think about how stupid that sounds. You're able to stimulate somebody's small economy right now. I could do that in a very small way, but they could do that in a macro way. They don't understand it. But people who cooked the books back then got people like that thinking, oh, if I made it, anybody can make it. Same dudes will tell you that you need reparations. If you can get your money up, you don't need reparations, do you? That doesn't make sense. The two things don't marry up. So I'm contending that it's way more difficult to get your money right than it is for you not to get your money right. See what I'm saying? It's way more difficult. They can say, oh, you can do this and this and this. All those jobs are not available for everybody. So nobody's made a lane where people are like, oh, you can go do this. And that's not how it works. You have to apply for these things. You don't just get to just go do them. That's not how it works. And once again, they cook the books by having people believe bullshit like that. Somebody will go to school, get a job, and think about this. People are not even able to pay for their homes, right? I.e., their mortgages, property taxes, whatnot. People can't even pay for an apartment, their rent, right? Their bills or utilities, whatever. People can't pay for their student loans. People can't really afford to really raise their children. Like, there's a lot of shit that people are having a hard time affording. And so I'm just trying to figure out, like, where's the money at? You know what I'm saying? Like, if the books have not been all the way just totally freakazied, fried, steamed, broiled, right? Roasted. Where's the money at for everybody? Because there's no way that they did not cook all of the books. We all know they did, and everybody, anyone with like the sense of a gnat, and I think I have at least that. I'm gonna give myself that much credit, and I won't even go further than that. I have the sense of at least a gnat of self-survival that I won't sit there and just let you crush me to death. I gotta move out the way. And it's the same thing with the cookbooks, right on? They're not gonna let those cookbooks crush them. They got enough sense to know that if they tell the truth, they're out of business, they're done. Now they're destitute. Right, just like that. Why would they do that if they can lie and say whatever? You know? Peace, family. Because we all know, look, how hard is it? How hard is it to tell a lie? You know? How hard is it? How hard is it to say, hey, somebody asks you for some money, right? And you say, I ain't got none. Is that really that hard? No, no, it's not hard at all. It's actually super duper easy. That's one of those things where we all know that a person could walk up to you, and I'm not saying that this is a version of cooking the books, but this is how it works. A person walks up to you and say, hey man, you got change for a five? And you know you got a pocket full of ones, right? But you don't want to pull the money out. So you're like, nah, I don't. But actually, you really do. Right on? That's what cooking the books is like. That's what it's really, really, really like. That's the closest thing I could give it to people, like where they understand, but it's at a super macro level, it's at a huge level. So they're saying, how much money do you guys have right now? And you're saying, man, we've got 500,000. But realistically, you've only got like 50,000, 100,000. And so now and so now they're like, okay, well, we'll front you this money so that way you can go get the rest of the money. Boom. Now you're telling somebody else, I got 500,000. Now you really got the 500,000 because somebody just gave it to you. And so now you can build on the equity. But now you see what I'm saying? But you're cooking the book stuff because you're supposed to have this much more value. So you got to make sure that this other person doesn't find out that you told this person that the value of whatever was at this range anyway. Because then they're going to ask you, well, why didn't you tell me you had this much, you know what I'm saying, equity to begin with? Because then they're going to feel like you're trying to use them and their money and not your own money. Right. So this is why all this stuff is so deep because there is no one way, there is no singular way that they achieve burning up the records and making sure that they don't get caught up in the process. They want me and you to really believe that every single business owner in America is not cooking the books. They're all paying their fair share. They're all doing this, they're all doing that. If that was the case, why are the streets all messed up? Don't tell me it's a misallocation because then you're telling me that the senators, right, and the legislative body is cooking the books. Uh-oh, we're getting deep now. And if you're telling me that, then that means that guess what, folks, we're in trouble. Right. Because that's what I'm saying is that everybody's cooking the books. They can't tell you that they're not. I have to stress that point and emphasize that because if at any point somebody watches this, they need to know that from the very moment that they sat down on Plymouth, whatever they call that, from that very moment, right, up until now, the books have been on fire. They ain't never kept it real. Think about this. How could all those automobile companies need bailouts? How could banks need bailouts? And then claim that you have this much equity, this much value. It don't even make sense. Right. Think about what I'm saying. If you charge people this much money to get these homes, where did the money go though? So you spent all the money that you got? Where is it at? And when somebody can answer that, then we can have that conversation that they did not cook the books. You had dudes who cooked the books so badly that they on Wall Street. That's why I used to bring this stuff up periodically, and I'm gonna bring it up now. They were saying that they were paying themselves $900,000 an hour. That was a way of them cooking the books, so that way, wherever the money went, right, they can say, "Oh well, these guys are paying themselves a whole bunch of money," but maybe they didn't even have that kind of money, and ain't nobody even asking those kind of questions. Books are cooked all the way, y'all. I was supposed to get an article. I won't get it now because we've all seen it before in the past. It's the uh it's the one article that talks about how the Khazar people are converts of like a whole bunch of different faiths. But more importantly, every land they used to go into, they would be put in control of the finances. So don't y'all think it's weird that the same dudes who've been cooking the books since they got on the scene are still cooking the books right now? Think about that. I mean, just really think about that. Who's going to tax a Saudi oil company? Not us. Don't have the agency to do that. All you can do is charge them a certain amount of money to do business. But the Saudis can always lie about how much oil they have. Right. That's how that works. They can say, man, we have enough oil to do this, this, and this, and this. And might only have enough oil to do a quarter of what they're saying. Nobody knows. That's the art of cooking the books. You got to bluff and play chicken at all times. Yep. Because the moment that you stop bluffing and people realize, like, oh, you did what? How much money did you make? Okay, prove it. Right. People want to see vaults full of money. We want to see that. For real, for real. Right. It's like Fort Knox. Like when people be like, there ain't no gold there. I believe that there ain't no gold there. I believe that. That's believable. That is highly believable that there is no gold at Fort Knox. Right. But saying that there's a certain amount of it, whatever there, gives it value. It's cooking the books, y'all. Anytime you lie about something and devalue it so that way you can get more from it than what you ought to, oh, I shouldn't have to pay nothing for this. Everybody else does. How can you call yourself a legitimate businessman, but you don't want to engage in legitimate business? Right. And I don't even care what the crown did or does or didn't do or won't do or is going to do. It's got nothing to do with me. Nothing. Right on? Queen passed away. I didn't say nothing about that. It's really none of my business. Word? one of my favorite octoroon, quadroons, who had been on the earth in a hot minute. I never. That's all. That's the only thing I used to always say about the queen. We all know that. We all know that the queen is part black. Was part black. Come on, like, let's not play games. But once again, when you cook the books, things like that will go unnoticed, unrecognized, and uncared about. Right on. If we tell you that everybody who was on the throne was all pale skin with straight hair, but everybody had hair that looked more close like Demetrius than not, right on, and their pure natural form, people gonna feel some type of way. Right. So you gotta cook the books. Right. You gotta say, really, they look like this, even though they didn't. That's part of cooking the books, is lying about every little thing. I can't stress that enough. It's not just the money. The money is a major thing because that's how they control everyone. They don't keep people in control with religion. They don't. Because every day, people who are self professed believers at the highest level go out and sin, because the temptations of the earth are powerful. And I'm not excusing anyone from their devices that they engage in, or from their activities, whatever they do, right? I'm saying that that's the truth and that's the actuality. Whereas the money, if you affect how much money somebody can make, if you put a cap, like I always say, if there's a minimum wage, I want the maximum wage. Where's that at? Where's the legislation for the maximum wage? You know why there isn't one? Because they cook the books. Can't pay you a maximum wage because we ain't got that kind of money, homie. Everybody at a certain level of seniority or skill would rate that. Everybody would be working to get the maximum wage. After a while, we wouldn't be able to pay anybody the minimum wage. Then y'all will really see how cooked the books really are. If anybody other than me has never worked a place where a check bounced and you had to wait a day to bounce, and you had to wait a day to cash your check, then hey, I'm the only one who's ever been through that. But if you've ever had to wait to get your money ever in life, you know what I'm talking about. Right on? It could have been the systems went down and thousands of people across the nation didn't get paid. I don't care. That's a version of cooking the books. How we know they didn't plan that shit? So that way they could go do a little drug move, get the money from that, get the lick, put the money into the damn Swiss account or whatever, the offshore account, all that shit, and then and then get the dividends right. We'll never know. We're not there doing the actual footwork to get the money right, to uncook the books for just that little second. Because if they don't get the money right, then this is why making money, this is why people spending money is so important. Because if the money keeps circulating, it's hard to tell that the books are cooked. But if you sit on it, and then you really will see, okay, right. People make money during baseball games and football games because there's a lot of people out there spending money. So they're able to go buy their goods, sell their wares, re-up, and do this, however many times they're supposed to be these games. Now, the only issue is this, is that let's say that a team is underperforming or whatever, right? The money slows down, right? So now the product that they're getting, I'm not saying that they can't get it, it's not worth buying. So the same person that they're buying all this stuff from is like they're not picking up the stuff from the other person. The other person who's been cooking the book, you know what I'm saying, on the back end, on the back end. Now they're like, fuck, I need some money. So now I gotta go do some wild, crazy shit. And this is where all this crime and stuff is coming from. Because you got people who cook the books, and it's easier for me to say to my nephew, hey, to my niece or whoever, right? Who's a grown up adult person. Hey, look, I'm gonna put this money in your hands. From what I understand, you got a couple of influential affiliates or associates who can help this money flip. I need you to make that happen. So other people are absorbed, and this is why they don't mind when people get killed and lose all their money, because then that money goes back into the system, and it's just a little chink into the cooking of the books while they try to figure out how can we uncook this shit. You can't. Like I said, that meal fit for a king will never reach his lips. They rolled the dough too thin, y'all, and they cooked it just a little bit too much. That's just what that's where we're at. I'm about to roll out here in a little bit. I'm gonna sip on this little drink with y'all, and just kick it. I mean, that shit is smooth. Some Pendleton whiskey and some Jameson, Irish whiskey, whatever, Scotch, whatever it is. Oh yeah, pretty good. Take a little sips of that. Anyway, my people, as I look out the window and I just think about how everybody's been played their whole life. We've all been played at least one point. But every year, people get to see just like what a joke the system is. How many people get to file false taxes? Right. They're still looking for people who did that stuff. Right on. Like, I mean, think about that. I forget where it was at. You had 7 people defraud the system for like $100 million. 7 people. 7 people. Split. Split. Is that a 12 and a half? I want to say. No, 7 times 12 is 84. No, so maybe a maybe a 13 and a quarter, right? 13 and a quarter million each. Those books are cooked. Whatever that was real money that they gave these people. You can't uncook that. That's cooked. It's out there. Once you defraud the system, they start cooking the books. Right. This is why they aggressively pursue people. That's why the IRS is about going after people. And people like the IRS is full of shit. Are they? Are other people full of shit and make it seem like they're full of shit because they don't want to give up their fair share? And I don't want to hear nothing about big government and big business because it's one and the same. You see what I'm saying? So there's no need to be like, oh well, they're in bed with these guys. We already know that. We all already know that. Everybody knows that. But what they don't know is that how they got in bed is because they was like, yo, look, we fucked up some money over here. We were supposed to ship this stuff here, have it to y'all. It didn't get here. And this could have been either party. The other party's like, yo, look, don't worry about it. Because we fucked up some shit too. So how can we fix it? We'll just say we lost it all. Right? And then we'll say somebody stole it. Right? And then we'll say right. This is why insurance is a scam. And this is why they have investigators at all these insurance places. Right on. For the longest, they've had investigators looking into fraud. That's just what it is. Right. For the longest of time, they've had to have that. Because guess what? You've had jokers running around here talking about, yeah, look, we're going to burn down the building. We're going to cry tears. Oh, my business, my business. But the building was only worth this much when we first bought it. We got it insured however long later. We built up the equity. It's a love place, right on. Nobody's ever going to understand why whatever happened. It's going to look like a faulty plug. They do their investigation. Now, this is how it really works. Whoever the investigator is, they're trying to bribe this dude. He can't be bribed. He might come up missing. Something bad might happen to him. Then another investigator get on. Likewise, this is all back in the day. They're a lot more peaceable now, and they have better. I won't say better. They just have more refined methods as to trying to figure out if somebody did something malicious or not, and if this was intentional or unintentional, right? And even if it's intentional, was it set by a party that has something to gain from it? Because somebody setting your business on fire because they got mad at you, it doesn't disqualify you from a insurance claim. What it does is that now we're looking for somebody to put this on so that way we can hold this person responsible. So that way the insurance company is not left holding the bag. They can put this debt off on this person and they can wipe that debt off of themselves. Right. The cooketh of the booketh. They don't give a damn. And most people ain't never heard nothing, where I don't want to get into the tax stuff. I don't really want to talk about, the actual true numbers to things. The different kind of I don't even want to get into all that. I don't want to talk about no accounting, no accounts payable, receivable, what I'm saying, no expenses, no revenues, profits. I don't want to talk about nothing like that as far as that's concerned. I just want to talk about the cookbooks. And anybody who's going to deny it, we know that they're a denier of the truth. We know it. These dudes will lie to you about anything. Like literally anything. They tell grown men and women to their face, hey, look, even though I know you seen what you just saw, you didn't see that. What you saw is what we're about to tell you saw. It's just like Men in Black. Like, I know what I saw. Word. I know I'm not tripping, but that's the reality. That's the actuality that we're going through right now. When they first got to this country, I'd imagine that they were just so happy to be here, right? And I'm gonna tell you this too. This is deep. So they're so happy to be here. The white dudes is watching black slaves literally build up and cultivate relations that they could never cultivate with these native people. Don't even speak the same language or nothing like that. They're just they're just amicable, right on. And you got the natives trying to pretty much signify that, hey man, the white dude is in here trying to kill motherfuckers and forcing us out the land. And the brothers trying to explain, like, man, we're slaves. And each party can understand on the level of the representation of what they're doing. Now, these dudes aren't going to tell you that they use black people to cultivate these relationships to turn on these natives. Right on? And I'm not just talking about red-skinned Mongoloids. I'm talking about people who are loose, curly hair, aboriginal looking people, straight hair, dark skin, dark eyes, right on? Negroid looking people. Okay. And then we're talking about individuals who look more like Sitting Bull or something like that. You know, look like a mongoloid with a Khazar nose. Still, my point is this: they won't tell you that black people cultivated those relationships like that and that they burnt those relationships to the ground. Right. They'll just tell you that these guys all got sick. Right. They all had weak immune systems. They all died. I'm being real, fam. This is real. This is real life. You know? And because we're in a situation where literally they, like I said, the whole thing is cooked, man. They're not even gonna tell you nothing like that. They're not gonna say, yeah, man, we use y'all to fuck over your own people. You know? My bad. I wasn't trying to even deliver it like that, but you get what I'm saying though. But you follow what I meant though, right? Because that's still nonetheless the truth. Like, like they used a certain group of people to get at the other group of people without even being violent, just to use violence later against them once they had already diminished their power and diminished their influence in the land and totally had degraded them, you know. And it's heartbreaking, man, when you think about, like, damn, they really cooked the books. And I feel for all my brothers and all my sisters who've been caught in middle management jobs that have those kind of jobs where the activities that you have to do are anti-book cooking, or are book cooking in its own ways. Because can't nobody tell me like I'm gonna say it like this: in a kitchen, a waste log is a way of cooking the books because doesn't matter what they say they lost that year. They could say, "Oh, I lost this much money." Who is a company to say what that amount is portioned out or whatever, whatever, whatever? You're saying I lost this much. I paid this much money for it, but I expected to make this much for it, right? And this is the receipt to say that I paid for it, or I paid for all these different things at a certain period of time, and now I'm getting all this money deducted, right? Thousands of dollars deducted. So you're helping. Once again, I'm not saying that I shouldn't do the waste log, right? But I'm saying a part of my job is to help these dudes cook the books, whether I want to say that or not. And this is how all businesses are built. They're all built so that way they can cook books at the end of the annual fiscal cycle. They know that at the end of the fiduciary cycle, they knows this to be the truth and they'll never deny it. And so because we're in a situation where, like I was saying, they used us to get at everybody else and then they lied about it. They're not going to tell that story like they said everybody got sick and died. Right on. They're just we can't help it. They all must have had compromised immune systems or some shit, right? And they all died. We gave them good blankets, right? And they all died, right? So it's like, damn, this is the story. I mean, and that's what we're supposed to believe, though. No worries on that. We all know they cook the books. We all know they cook the books when they say that shit. And then they'll lie about how many natives, Aboriginal, indigenous people that they murdered and took up off the earth. They'll lie about that number too. They'll say, "Oh, it was like 100 million." Dude, it's like, bro, like closer to 1 billion. You know what I'm saying? That they came over here and murdered. Murdered. They won't talk about that. Right. People starving to death and shit like that. And won't nobody even address these types of things. They cooked the books. How many buffaloes did they really kill? That's what I want to know. How many? Let me see what's coming up. Oh, well, yeah, bro. I mean, well, look, man, this whole situation is I mean, to me, it just looks like it's getting to the point to where the day of great bloodshed is just closer and closer, but every event before that moment is gonna be just ridiculously wild and just like hard to fathom, difficult to really comprehend. And that's where I'm at. I'm like, how is it that it's a handful of black people that all understand that they cook the books? We all get it. You get it. Right. This mass die bro. Look, I don't know what's going on around the US right now, but I just know it ain't pretty, man. Uh I had somebody say something one day, and it really struck me as like hella like, damn, it could happen like this. And this is just a quick caveat. There was like, what if these dudes tried to use those super fentanyl pills to poison the water supply or something like that? Like, how long until the US would find out? Or how long? And I'm like, that's how you know that real extremists don't really exist like that. Because they're not telling us about when they catch these dudes in the act of trying to do that shit, right? Because that would encourage people to form their own not even militias, but security groups to be attaches to these actual law enforcement agencies that go out and oversee this stuff. Because you have to know, people have the right to know what's going on around their homes, and they shouldn't be left in the dark and told, "Oh, stay inside while we do it, while we take care of this." Because the one time that they can't take care of it, it's gonna be fucked up, you know. Oh yeah, man. Well, I mean, I look. We all know what time it is with that jab. Okay, I'm not going to sit here and say I was the only person to be against people getting the vaccination, but before there was a vaccination, you everybody who knows me knows that I was like, my God wouldn't want me to do that, and that was my stance, and that will be my stance forever. You know, whatever anyone else said, I can't dictate, but I would hope that they put the Most High God first. You know, outside of their own personal health, right, and just said that that's not mandated. You know what I mean? Like no matter what they say. I mean, but you get what I'm saying though. Like, there's too many different ways they could attack, man, and neutralize essentially millions of people at once. Right. But I just don't see how they pull that off logistically without almost killing themselves. Like, the fentanyl thing, because they could easily get killed themselves on accident. Like, there's no way to control it because water flows freely. If it flows too freely for them to control how who and whom would be affected, whom wouldn't, right, on whose body would have a natural tolerance, whom wouldn't. The last thing you want to do is kill off a bunch of white folks and a bunch of niggas is walking around like, oh shit, looks like they ain't gonna be needing none of this no more. Right. So you know what I mean? Like they don't wanna set themselves back. But I do the COVID thing, no doubt. But just to get back to the cooketh of the books real quick, bro. They cooked the book so cold that everything we're talking about right now, even the COVID thing. Let's use COVID. COVID, they cooked the book with the coldest. Because does anybody remember when I did the expound? Can you count? You know what I'm saying? And I was like, yo, 1,000 people, 50 states, 20 people in every state. That's 1,000 people a day. That's 365,000 based on their year every year. In 3 years, you'd have over 1 million deaths from COVID, or it's right around it. But I'm pretty sure it'd be over 1 million deaths. So the same number of deaths they reported for each year was the same number of deaths that you would have naturally annually. So how many more deaths really occurred? I'm gonna say it like this, man. It's dangerous. It's dangerous. And remember, what's his name? Mayor Cuomo. Yes. That needs to be a hashtag that they need to get out there, okay? Because I can't force them to accept it. But look, I hope I hope one of them come over here and sees it. One of these dudes with the major channel, they ain't even gotta take that, but they better start telling the people that the books are cooked and start understanding that no matter how much money they have right now, that the books have been cooked to where they can only get so much. It's set up, it's rigged where you can only make so much money. That's how they had the whole shit set up. They don't give a fuck, you know. And we all know it, you know. I like that one though. Yeah, yeah. I like that hashtag. Yeah, yeah. Whoa, whoa, whoa. They make me they make me search it out. But it's a blessing to be in a situation where we know that this is what they did. We can get it, we see it, we understand it. That's just like with the COVID shit, bro. Like, once again, how did they not dirt the books? They told me and you and everybody else there was this many people dying a day. So nobody else died any natural deaths. I mean, virtually every death was attributed to COVID. Every single one of them. And the issue that I had was like I'm saying, the number of deaths matched the regular number of deaths I would assume take place annually. So why wasn't there millions of deaths? And if there was, why were they afraid to say something? Again, they cooked the books, man. Cooked them. And they want me and you to sit here and hold an empty fucking bag while they're sitting there partying and vacationing and having their best life. And they want to do that shit on our dime. I'm not having that. I won't go for that. Sorry, I won't. I can't. They literally put black people in a position like, so check this out. And and there's a lot of white folks who've been talking this kind of shit for a hot minute. Like how they get like there's a bunch of white dudes who get that the whole system is like primed to fall. Like they're just kind of waiting. And they're not like buy gold or buy silver. They're kind of smart. Like they understand like you better just be ready for one hectic moment because that moment is going to test you greater and you got to make it past that. You can't even be worried about anything after that. Like, fuck a post apocalyptic world and forget all that shit. You know, none of that matters come to one final moment where we all kind of every life on earth is going to know like this is the day. It's not going to be mistaken. And the most high God is going to uncook the books. Right. Only he can uncook it. They'd have to surrender all that they have and admit that they don't even have some of the resources to do some of the work. Why do you guys think they're always stalling to do all this infrastructure work? Because they're trying to get the scraps of metals from everywhere else to melt the shit down so they have enough of the requisite material to do these jobs with. It's not because, oh, it's a bidding war. That shit is a fucking ruse. Right on? That's a red herring. And they know it. I understand that a bid actually takes place. But when you have people who are like, we're waiting for the price of steel to lower, we're waiting for the price of aluminum to lower, we're waiting for the price of copper to go down, we're waiting for the price of brass to go down, we're waiting for the price of whatever, right on? You know what I'm saying? Cement, right? Low grade rubble, whatever the fuck we're using, plaster, drywall, blase, 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 the wood, all that. Everything you can think of. All those things are now normally either recycled or recyclable. And then when you want them in the fresh, like brand new way, they have to be, it takes time for trees to grow. Right on? So a project that was supposed to take place 2 or 3 years ago ends up taking place 10 years later because the trees done grown. Some of these natural metals have been replenished to the earth. We've had, you know what I'm saying? Right. We've taken the time to go around and cultivate these materials so we can actually do these jobs. They're cooking the books. If the earth was as plentiful and bountiful with all these things, and it has plenty, but it is finite. If the earth had all these things, they could just do all these jobs and just throw a fucking mountain of materials at it. And then when they get done, throw a mountain of materials. It would just be one job after the next. It wouldn't even matter. They would just have, once again, they would have warehouses full of replacement parts of every single mechanism on every single vehicle. Where it doesn't matter. We can just fix everything. Everything is fixable. All of it. Super duper easy at that. Right. They cooked the books. They didn't want to make vehicles to last forever, so they made it to where you could go and get a brand new one every year and have a reason to. Right. As opposed to saying we make vehicles every 5 years, every 10 years, we have a new model car, right? Because what that would do is that would give them plenty of time to make the vehicle, right? Then it would give the vehicle that you're using plenty of time to accrue the miles, everything that all that stuff. Then when you bring in the old car, we take the parts off this old car, scrap everything down, and then reuse it for this next newer set of models of vehicles. They don't do nothing like that. They just crank it out, crank it out, crank it out, crank it out, crank it out. And then when they have to do that, they do. But they don't do that as a natural business practice. All cooking fucking books. And I'm not shitting on none of my brothers and sisters. Once again, I got a cousin that's an accountant, lives in Georgia, right on. High six figure woman. Word, she making money. Am I going to shit on her? But no, her job is to cook the books, whether she knows it or not. Has to be. Anytime you're the accountant, you're there to look at what kind of expenses, like I said, the profits, the revenues, all that shit, right on? Miscellaneous, all that. That's your job to overlook and see that and say, okay, we can say you spent this much money here, right? Let me see the receipts. All right, how much money did you spend here? Okay, we're going to line this up and say you spent this much here on this project because this project cost this much money. We lost some of the receipts. They're going to have a hard time proving that we didn't. Boom, we're going to say for this project that this project and this project overlap one another, so the receipts for this project are the same for this project. I'm trying to give y'all the game. She ain't never told me this. It's coming from somebody who I used to want to be an accountant. Now, I used to want to be a lot of stuff, but I used to really want to do like the real paperwork because I always knew there was money in that. And I'm just trying to tell y'all how some of this shit works. So I could overlap one thing with the other because I paid for this and I did this project with this, and I can prove to y'all. There might be video documentation, this, and this, that, and the other, and anything that will 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 exculpate, okay, will exonerate you under the guise that they assume that you did something that you weren't supposed to do, something immoral or something illegal. Right on? Whichever one comes first. But the point being what I just said, that once the books are cooked, you have to stay on top of it. And this is why they hire people to make sure that they never get caught up with cooked books. Wesley Snipes didn't want to pay his accountant. He found out the hard way. Had he did it right, he could have took the money that they said that he was supposed to have gotten. Anyway, I ain't gonna say nothing too much. No, I'm gonna say it. He could have had money that he already had over here, took the money out, said he claimed that he made considerably less, had those dudes put that money in an offshore account for him, claimed he made considerably less from the production company, paid the taxes in his American dollars, which would have been of the considerably lesser rate that he's claiming that he paid. Bam, bam. Problem solved. It's like, it's not that all the way simple, but it really is that easy, though. There's some complexity to it, but it really is that easy. Because they can't prove every little transaction. What, y'all gonna stand there with a fucking click watch? And for every dollar I spend, y'all gonna click? No, that's not how it works. Right on? That's like if you're a food vendor. They would have to come out there and literally video record you selling food all day, every day for an entire year to say how much money you made exactly. That's exactly how they would have to do it. Then they would have to see how much waste you had. They would have to accommodate the waste as actual product. So you can't say, oh, it's only worth this much. No, I was supposed to sell it for this much. Right. So they can't. This is why I always say, if people really don't know, and I'm not knocking them, if they don't know and they don't like actually have an understanding of these things, this is how they get duped. Right on? Because they have no true background in like how the money works. There's people who, once again, who can count just fine, and they're never going to get cheated out their money per se, but they could also be in a situation where some of the money that you got paid is tied up in some other money, and now you got to explain where all your money come from. Well, you never had to do that before, because before your money wasn't tied up with these other individuals who were being accused of said such activity. They cooked the books during COVID. How many times did that dude is it Rand Paul, right? How many times did he call out Fauci, even though they both full of shit? How many times did he call out Fauci and be like, dude, didn't the Chinese get the actual COVID strain from the NIH? You know what I'm saying? And and Fauci's like, I don't think that's relevant. Oh, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying? And this little New York old man accent. And I'm just like, ain't this shit crazy? How they can tell me or tell you that this is not relevant, but on the paper, on the uncooked books, that's what happened. Right. And dude was pretty much saying, like, aren't y'all kind of responsible for this shit? Now they cooked the books to say whatever, whatever. But I'm saying this though, the books were cooked so that way would people would blame China and not the US, as opposed to blaming America for this virus having the gain of function to transfer from an animal to a person and a sub person, and then therefore be spread between them, right? They don't talk about that. They're talking about the fact that, oh, it started in Wuhan. It's the China virus. Even if to some of those, even if to a certain degree, I understand and I agree with those sentiments, far greater than that, I still have to say that it's America's fault. But if you cook the books enough, like they have, people still blaming China. Right, because all the paper trails lead to China. They don't lead back to America's labs. That's the point I'm trying to make. It's like when you cook the books, they always cook it to where the whoever you think the culprit is, if you don't want it to be you, you have to cook it to where you're not the culprit. I didn't do nothing wrong. Okay, I did what I was supposed to do. That's how the shit works. And I'm not trying to get carried away and be talking about this all day, but there's a part of me that really just needs to just say what needs to be said. We are watching the last real session of the cooking of the books. Talking about what, like, the whole earth, that everything, how all this shit is being slowed down and all that. Right. The only next thing to come after this is some totalitarianism shit, some fascist shit from everywhere around the earth, or what y'all think is fascist. What I just think is old school governing, right on, where shut the fuck up and get in line, or you will get fucked up. That's how most governments ran for a long time, and this goes all the way back to the Bronze Age. So it ain't nothing new, and that's where I'm at. I've accepted that we're in a very dangerous time. Right. If people don't keep spending what little bit of money they got when they can, while they can, and they start to realize how cooked the books really are, it's just a matter of time until all these governments do something desperate. Desperate, desperate people are some of the most dangerous people. Trust me, you do not want to be around a nigga who's trying to get money for Christmas so he can buy his children present and it's December 24th. Okay? You do not want to be around the nigga like that. And he got a gun and all that shit. Okay? You do not want to be around niggas like that. And y'all ain't no kind of kin. Y'all ain't no kind of good. Even if you can, and even if you good, if you got it and they don't, you don't want to be around niggas like that. That's how real it is, you know. And they don't want to hear that. The cookbooks create those kind of scenarios because a brother can't even go out, a sister can't even go out and just go make enough money in 1 week to where she's like, okay, I'm good for 2 or 3 weeks. He's like, I'm good for 2 or 3 weeks while I try to figure out what's going on. There's no money out there. There is no money. People can say, "Oh, you got to get your hustle on. You got to know your worth. You got to da 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 da." The problem is that when there's other people who can do the same job that you can and do it for the same price or cheaper and do it for a comparable quality, they might not be as good as you, but they're like, I did it almost as good and I did it faster." Now, where once again, you have the quality work, so yours is going to last thoroughly through and through. People ain't always worried about the thoroughness. Sometimes people just want you to get it done. As sad as that is, that's part of cooking the books. They don't care. They're like, look, Spumoni, we don't give a fuck that you can uncook these books perfectly. If you uncook them, we're just gonna cook these bitches again. So don't cook. So don't uncook them. Money's like, enough said. Once they told Money they was gonna cook them bitches all the way back again, he was like, fuck it, there's no need for me to even get upset about it. Because this is their modus operandi. This is who they are. I'm saying this and then I'm out. We've had an unknowable number of people get killed this year, not realizing that. And I'm talking about people who was like I'm gonna use the little rapper dudes, man, who've been getting killed, right? And the latest one was the young buck PNB Rock. He my age, man. He's supposed to turn 31 in a couple months. You know what I'm saying? I'm almost a year older than bro, but you know what I'm saying? Bro's still my age. And I just seen that situation and that shit fucked me up. But that's what happens. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is how I know that most of these rappers cook the books and don't have the kind of money that they say they do. Because if they did, they would have security with them at all times. Right on? It would be nothing. If I'm paying for this dude's room and board and I'm paying him 100K, what's 100K if you really got it like that? Right? What's $100,000 a year to pay for security if you really got it like that? Like I said, these niggas is cooking the books. Word. So they don't really got it like that. They got all this shit to act like they do, right? Like I said, they will tell you they got whatever, right? And they'll show you whatever they need to show you to convince you that I got something. But at the same time, if you really had it like that, you would move differently. That's the facts. Nigga, if I've made $1 million, right on, 10% of that goes to my security. At least. At least. If I'm running around here with $100,000, $200,000 worth of security on, the other rappers who are for real with the shit, even if they don't got professional security, they got shooters on the team that don't worry. I lace my man with 10 grand this month, 15 grand this month. He's good for the next 2 or 3 months. Word. He just gonna rock. He just gonna rock with me and roll with me, and he ready to push the niggas shit back all the way. So it don't even matter. So that's what I'm saying. Like, dudes who really are able to do what they're saying, they're gonna do that. As opposed to somebody who's like, I'm gonna put all the agency of my safety and everything in my hands, even though in my music I'm talking about I got shooters who will knock you down. It's backwards. But that's cooking the books. Word. They told everybody lyrically. They're lyrically cooking the books by telling niggas what could happen. Right on. If I got the strap, I got this, la da 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 da. Okay. Whether they mumbo jumbo rapping, whether they got the auto tune, whether they got real bars, don't matter. The point being is that if you're saying some shit like, I got enough money to afford this, homie, the first thing you need to be worried about is your security, is your ability to continue to acquire provender and dividends. That just makes the most sense. So when you have people who were like, nigga, I'm not paying for security. I'm good. I'm good, nigga. Nigga, my name ring bells out here, nigga. Nigga, my face is good out here. Okay, homie, we'll fucking see. But since you're gonna test everybody's gangster, or you're gonna test to see if niggas have that kind of love for you, you're gonna find out. Young homie found out. I don't blame his baby's mama. People post their location every day, and niggas don't come and shoot the shit out of them, okay, and take what little they have. They don't do that. So I'm not hearing that. Okay. And this man died for realistically probably anywhere from 12 to $100,000 worth of jewelry. Just not worth it. Right on? It's really not. It's like, it's not where I've spent more money in rent and like other miscellaneous expenses these last 6, 7 years than these dudes have spent on their jewelry. So I'm not worried about it. I understand what it takes to get that. I'm like, okay, that's a sacrifice, but nigga, I could just go rent some jewelry if I want it like that. You know what I'm saying? I could just go rent it. Some real life jewelry. Go lease it out or whatever the fuck the rappers and niggas like that do. And go get some real shit. Word? It's insured and all that stuff. But I'm not even wearing it out. You see what I'm saying? Like I'm not even that kind of person, so there's no need for me to do that. And if I want it, I want to go buy it to own it for myself. But still, that's the point that I'm making is like these guys cook the books verbally where people are like, okay, this nigga says he's a gangster. So when niggas come out to audit you to see how much of a gangster you are, right on, and you find out, oh, nigga, there's a penalty for not being a gangster and claiming that you are. And we're gonna tax that ass. I'm not saying this right. I'm saying this is the shit that happens. So when the books get cooked all the way, can't nobody try to tell me or you nothing different because I believe that everybody's getting what I'm getting at here. Everywhere they cook the books, no matter where you work it, no matter, you know what I'm saying, how honest your so-called boss is. If you're the boss, right on. I'm not saying that you're working on cooking the books, but you probably have to do business with vendors that cook their books. If you're doing solo contracts, you know what I'm saying? You know, forget what it's called, I something or whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? But whatever, it's pretty much where you're a personal contractor, private contractor, people who have to figure out who follow their taxes like that. Then check this out. Don't matter, okay? Because if you're dealing with individuals who are like, yo, look, I want to say that I paid $20,000 on paper for this. I'm gonna give you 50, okay? But I want on paper that it costs 20. And you both got to be on the same page. So that way, when you file your taxes that year and they file their taxes, you don't put down they paid you 50 grand for that fucking job. Right. Everybody has to be on the same page. This is why cooking the books is so fucked up. Because I'll tell you one thing, then I'll turn around and do another. Then you're like, hey, bro, what the fuck, my nigga? Didn't you tell me this, thus, and thus? And I'm like, I did, but shit got fucked up. You know what I'm saying? And then all of a sudden now people are upset, rightfully so, and I get it. You know who didn't cook the books? The Most High God. He was so righteous that he didn't cook the books. Word. The earth has been through so much that if the earth was not what he said it was, it would have been over a long time ago. He's the only one that's never cooked the books, y'all. The rest of them have most definitely played some sort of sabotage in the people really understanding how much is really being moved or what's really going on. Straight up. We end on this note. They came here in boats, were able to literally benefit off of the free work of slaves, did not want to pay a nominal tax for the free labor that they were receiving. Right. And the price at which people paid to gain the service of these slaves was so it was so little, it didn't matter. And people were able to own slaves long before the Revolutionary War. So we need to understand that by the time we get to the Boston Tea Party, this is close to the Revolutionary War. That's a long time after 1619, so-called. What we need to realize is that from that whole time all the way up until then, right? They had been cooking the book since day one, and the crown got tired of it. And when the crown tried to do their audit, these motherfuckers over here fought back. It's that simple. That's literally what happened. Right. Brothers and sisters, has been a wonderful time with y'all. Really, really, really. Literally a wonderful time. This has been my rendition of White Heaven, the Cooketh of the Booketh. And we all know that they have done just that. I salute you. I salute you. May tomorrow be better than today, and may your next week be better than your last. I love you, my brothers and sisters. May y'all continue to be warriors, be ever vigilant, do it to them before they do it to you. Don't do anything you do not have to do.